Greetings. Rob McCrae here, erstwhile Clan McCrae 9. And in this video we're going to be taking a look at the new upgraded Circus Maximus Vassal module. It's basically a build-up from the previous module that's been out there for a few years. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. The first thing coming into it is going to be a little bit different. You're going to join the game as a side. Previously, you had all 16 of the individual teams, or however many teams were out there. So you had dark blue, light blue, dark green, light green. And so this time you're just going to choose the primary color. So in this demonstration, I'm just going to go in as solitaire. So I'll basically have godlike powers. And as you can see, it looks dramatically different from the module that's been posted out there for a while. So in this introductory video, I just want to do like I usually do and go over the menu items. That'll kind of take you through most of the upgrades and modifications, at least in terms of introducing you to them. So let's go ahead and get started. As always, the first 4 items here are standard Vassal menu items. For undo, step forward through a log file, showing, hiding the server, and then if you want to retire from the player side that you're on. Those are, as I said, standard Vassal module menu items. And then starting here is where we have the menu items created specifically for this game, and the first one here is a brand new one. As you can see, probably the first thing you notice when I brought the module up is that the map has been updated. I'd like to thank Michael Pond, who redesigned this. You can see he did a magnificent job. Colors are certainly a lot less garish than the original Avalon Hill map. Very attractive, very clean, so he did a great job, and we're really benefiting from his artwork there. But if you so choose to bring up the original map module, I have an overlay here that will allow you to play the original Circus Maximus map, and there's not a problem if you want to. Everything will be pretty much identical. The pieces will fit on there pretty well. I got these 2 maps as close as I could. They're not 100% perfect, but they're pretty close. They're close enough to be able to play without it affecting your gameplay in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to go back to Mike's map here. And then we're going to move over to the Pieces module. The Pieces module, you click on it, and right off the bat you can see that even the pieces have been updated here. They've been colorized. I'd like to thank Jeff Lee for that, one of the other gang members that we play with, Circus Maximus, on Monday nights. And these new pieces here really kind of pop off the map when you have them on here. Put a chariot there, and put a team there. They're ready to start the race. You can also see that besides the colorization of the pieces from the original Avalon Hill pieces, that we've added some pieces here to support when you have a horse that dies. If you have to leave a dead horse on the track, you can do so. But also we have some special rules for spectator interference. So sometimes spectators, you might have a drunk Roman that runs onto the track, and you may have another one that throws a wine amphora onto the track, or a piece of fruit, or for the really rowdy types, rocks or poop. That's right, your spectators can throw poop onto the track, so they get pretty rowdy at times. The odds, though, there's not really that much interference. Usually the odds when we do the die rolls, it actually only happens a small percentage of the time, but it is a neat addition to the game. Okay, going to the next menu item if you played the game before, you're going to recognize the chariot race logs. Now, if you'll notice when I click on here, I've incorporated all of the logs into one menu item, which saves a lot of the menu space. There are 16 different individual colors here. You can see they're broken down to the different factions. So each faction has 2 colors. So blue has dark blue and light blue. Green has dark green, light green. Red has dark red, light red. The gold team has orange and yellow. I wanted to get at least far down enough the colors to show you that the gold team doesn't have dark gold and light gold. It has orange and yellow. And same thing with the white, which has white and off-white. Everything else is dark and light. For rules purposes, if you have to figure out who the dark and who the light are for the gold of the white teams, orange is the dark color, yellow is the light color, and white is the dark color, and off-white is the light color. So looking real quick at the race log, I'm going to go back over this in detail on a separate video along with some of the other new items. But the main thing I want to show you here is that you can select an item just by left clicking on it. There's 2 ways you can do this. You can left click, and then it's quicker if you use the up and down arrow. You can adjust the number. You'll notice also that when I adjusted that, it automatically adjusts the driver modification here. And if I likewise do the current driver modification to match that, you're going to see that the current driver modification is going to go into the team speed calculation automatically, as well as if I added some team speed to one of our horses, it's going to always give you your current and correct team speed. So let's say, for instance, you wouldn't ordinarily adjust your horses all at once like this, but I could go like that, and you can see that I have a total horse speed of 17, a driver modification of 1 for a total of 8. So, and again, the basic way that you adjust these are one of 2 ways. You can highlight the item and use either the up and down, or if it's a horizontal line, the left and right button. Notice also that it's going to give you some textual information. So it's going to show you your current driver hits remaining and whether it was increased or reduced. Same thing with left wheel, right wheel, and endurance the same way. So this is a pretty functional race log now, and again, everything is automated for you, including the cars. So just when you get a hold of it, just be aware that you're going to either highlight it and use the up and down, or if you prefer, you can right click like I just did. So I'm going to do that again. I right click and it brings up the menu, and you can make the adjustments that way. I always use the up, down, left, right because it's a lot faster, especially here. Let's say, for instance, you were starting out and you had to bring your endurance down to 29. Well, if you did that one at a time, you can see that would take you forever. But just by clicking on it and making the highlighted box show up, I can use the left or the right arrow button and get to 29 really fast. Okay. So that's all we're going to do with the chariot race log right now. I'm going to do a separate video on generating a chariot team, and we'll be doing that directly onto the race log. The next menu item is the faction boards, and this is a entirely new item for the module, and this supports the campaign rules. So that's the biggest difference between this and the Vassal module that's been available out there, is that this one incorporates all the campaign rules, and a lot of it is automated into it. Not everything, but almost everything is automated in, so it's going to make it really easy for you to do the bookkeeping aspect of Circus Maximus. And again, just to show you, if I wanted to make an adjustment here, I would select an item, wait for the cursor to highlight there, and then here I've used the up arrow, and there I just spent 100 sesterces on skullduggery. You see it's going to automatically add the total there and give me a total of how much I've spent. And of course there are other purchases I can make. This is a really busy board, and I apologize for that. But I had a lot of information to put on there. I didn't really want to break it up into a whole bunch of separate boards because that is annoying in its own way. I know it's kind of annoying to have a board that has so much information on it as well. But this board is not going to be used during the racing. It's going to be used in between the races to do your betting, collect your winnings, make your expenditures. So I think it's good to have it all on one board. And it's like I say, since it's not going to be part of the actual horse racing aspect of it, that's all going to be done from the chariot race logs, the actual racing time. I think it's good to have all of this incorporated into one. And once you use it, I think you'll get used to it. So I'm just going to quickly go over the areas, but again, I'm going to do a separate video just for the campaign aspects and how the faction boards play into that. But you have the area here. This is where you would place your bets for any of the teams, whether you think it's going to win, place, or show. And let me real quick explain, if you play Circus Maximus before, you know that the betting rules in the original game do not allow for place and show. That's fine. If you want to go use the original rules, then you can do it this way. You have the win column that you can bet which horse is going to win. The game also has some in-base betting, some in-race betting, which is a little bit weird, but that's the way they set up the rules. So after the first lap, you can go into another betting session, and so this allows for that. And after the second lap, you can go into another betting session. All of those bets per the rules are for win only. There are no place or show rules in the original rules. But I added that because I think it adds a little bit more spice. And also, I think one of the things when you play the game, you realize that it's really hard to figure out the actual true percentages of which teams might win or might not, as opposed to if you compare it to a modern day horse race where there's lots of information, there's real factual information about the history of these teams. Some of these Circus Maximus chariot teams may have only had well, 0 races historically for you to see how they're going to run. So it's kind of hard to really set up realistic betting, at least early on in the campaign. But that's just part of the game, and you'll get used to figuring out how to bet and how to play the campaign factor of the game as opposed to just trying to win races yourself. So we'll go over betting in more detail later on. Purchases are done over in this side of the board, so you can buy skullduggery. For instance, I put 100 sesterces on, let's say, on drugging another driver, and then I would select the color that I want to try to drug, so dark purple in this case. And I could also spend 100 on bribery or drugging, and it's going to, or actually on security from drugging or bribery. And so it's going to keep up with your monetary purchases all the way through. In between, also, if you purchase a horse, driver, it's going to keep up with all of your expenditures, and also it's going to keep up with your total winnings. That's going to be automated. The one thing that I left manual in terms of the money is I left the sesterces totally manual for you to add or subtract as necessary. I just felt like you needed that flexibility in case you wanted to do something like borrow money from another player. Um, it, it would have been really hard to incorporate that in the Vassal module where everything's totally automated. I wanted to leave the flexibility so that the players could add or subtract their sesterces on the honor system. I think that's ultimately the best. While everything else is automated in here for your purchase and everything, um, the the grand total of your um, personal bank account is going to be up to you. This bottom section here, also for the campaign game, you're going to roll up extra teams. So, so say for the first race, you may choose this first driver here. That probably wouldn't be his actual name, but just want to show how you would type that in. Just right click and then add the text. And then just like you were creating two chariot teams, you would roll to see what your numbers are for the driver, the cart, um, team speed, endurance, the driver hits, how fast the horses are, and what your starting endurance is. And you would keep those in your pocket until you're ready to throw one of them into a later race. So that's everything I want to show you on the faction board right now. Again, there'll be a separate video just for showing the campaign rules. So next we have the charts, which are all available to you. We did add spectator interference charts if you want to use those in your game. But also I incorporate that in here automated as well, which might be a little bit easier for you to use. So the next three menu items are the dice, which I improved from the original module. As you can see, not only are you going to get the text result for the die roll, but you're also going to get a graphical view of what the die roll looks like. And so that's a pretty nice enhancement. It looks really good. The next three menu items are for chariot generation. So at the beginning of the game, let's say you were doing a single race, you're going to create a chariot team. And so I'll go over that in a separate video. Just wanted to show you that how that works. So let's say that you wanted to have your driver have a +1 modifier to start with. So you would roll that die and it'll tell you that your driver starts with 8 hit points available. And then you would go to your chariot race log here and you would set it up starting out where he had or she had 8 driver hits available. Same thing with the team speed generator and the endurance generator. So these are going to help you create characters really, really quick. The next menu item is the bet totals and odds. This one is totally automated. There's nothing you can do to influence or change this. There's nothing to click on this. It's going to be all informational. But the neat thing about this, I'm going to just show you real quick how this works. So let's say the blue faction leader puts 1,000 sesterces bet on his dark blue team to win. Okay, you're going to notice a couple of things. One, it's going to show up here that someone has placed, it's not going to show who placed the bet, but it's going to show that someone has placed a 1,000 sesterces bet for dark blue to win. It also influenced the odds. So let's open another team here real quick. And I don't want to get too deep into this because I am going to show a separate video. So the gold faction puts 2,000 sesterces on the orange team. So you can see now that the odds for dark blue have gone up and now orange is the favored team to win. And you can see the 2,000 sesterces bet that's been placed on there for the orange team. So if we had placed bets to place or bets to show, they would have shown up here, and any in-race betting would show up here. And it's also going to give you your totals of how much money has been spent by anybody and everybody for win, place, and show, and any in-race betting, and the total purse. The next menu item are the race results. So let's say it's the end of the race, and let's say the orange team did actually win. So I'm going to change that from a 0 to a 1 by highlighting on it, clicking the up button. I could also have right-clicked and chosen up or down. Not such a big deal here since it's only going to be one click anyway. You might as well use the right-click. It's still easier for me to use the up and down. So dark blue finished second, and let's say light pink finished third. So you're going to leave everything else at zeros. And just to give you an idea why, is because the calculations that are happening behind the scenes are basically multiplying times zeros until these ones are placed in here, and then this tells you, or tells the Vassal module, which team to bet actual numbers against instead of zeros, and it starts to fill in. And let's see. Let's bring up the orange one. Oh. Yeah, and you can see that because he bet on orange to win, it awarded him 2,000 sesterces to win. Okay. The next menu item is the League of Champions, and this is just a historical board. It doesn't affect any gameplay or anything, but let's say orange team driver. You'll come up with your own driver names, and yeah, they'll be as silly as you want them to be. That's a lot of the fun of Circus Maximus, is coming up with silly chariot driver names. And then you're going to adjust this until you get to orange. There it is. And then you would fill in all the rest of them too. So historically, as you went through the campaign, this would be filled in, race 1, race 2, race 3, and so on. It just gives you a historical record of which teams have won, and that's going to help you in the betting process as you move forward. If you see, historically the orange team has won 4 of the last 5 races, that's really where you're going to start placing your first place bets towards. Traditional Vassal menu item here is for notes. I'm not going to go into how to use it, but it's a way for you to communicate with other players as well as keeping notes for yourself. And the next button, this is the spectator interference menu. So these are all pre-designed die rolls. So let's say, for instance, you were going to decide whether or not spectator interference occurred before the beginning of the second turn. So you would do a die roll there, and it's going to tell you that in this case there's no spectator interference. So that would be all you would do on that turn, because it would go ahead and turn things off right at the beginning, so there's no spectator interference. Let me do another roll here just to show you, because it's random. So the next one says there's a fan on the track. So let's see, we got a fan out here, and then you're gonna figure out which factor it is. It's the red factor, and it's the dark red. So you're just going to keep rolling through that. I'm going to do a separate video just on spectator interference as well, because it's a little bit more complicated than just clicking the dice. You do have some interpretation that you have to make on these. And then the next we get back into the traditional Vassal module menu items. You can zoom in and out. You can set specific zoom size if you want. You can hide the pieces, and that's a pretty good tool actually that was not on the original Vassal module. For instance, let me zoom in here, because sometimes you end up with this problem. You're trying to go through one of these lanes, and if you've ever played Circus Maximus, you know that you need to know what these numbers are as you're trying to go through them, because that's measured against your chariot speed to tell whether or not you can make that corner without flipping over. And sometimes you can't see those numbers real well. So instead of grabbing somebody's piece and having to move it back, which is a little bit awkward, you can just do hide pieces, and it only disappears for your view. It doesn't disappear the pieces for anybody else. You can see what number's there, and then press on. Let me zoom back out. And then the last menu item here is the moved. So when you start moving your chariots, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 spaces, say. So he's moved 14 spaces. The movement trail is going to automatically be turned on for you. And then when it's the end of your turn, you're just going to click on the moved button and get rid of the trail, so that you don't end up with a map that's just covered with all the trail pieces. The only other thing I want to go over that's not part of the actual menu is these buttons here, and we'll go over the turns and the track markers here that tell you what turn you're on. So when you make your team planning to figure out how fast you're going to go, so let's say this guy is going to go 20, speed of 20, and straining, you would just do 20 plus. Right now it's masked. See how the number's smaller there? So it lets you know that your information is masked, so nobody else can see it. And then when you're ready to reveal, you're just going to flip it back over, and when the numbers are large, that means everybody else can see it. So again, if you've ever played Circus Maximus, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, just grab the rules. They're online on Board Game Geek, and that'll explain how the turn plotting goes. It's very simple. It's one of the simpler games in terms of planning for your turn, because really all you're doing is you're planning on how fast the driver is going to go, how fast he's going to drive his team, and whether or not he's going to strain the team by using his whip. The next thing is the initiation or the initiative markers, which are going to show randomly which team is next. So after you plot your movement, the next team that goes, like for instance purple would go, and then the next team would be dark blue, and so on. And so how it interacts between your movements is you never know whether you're going to go before the person that's in front of you, beside you, or after. And that's really where a lot of the strategy comes into play, is trying to outfox the random initiative, knowing whether or not someone's going to sneak up on you and attack you, or whether or not you're going to sneak up on somebody else and attack them because your initiative chit pulls up first. And then the other thing, as the teams reach the corners, you're going to signify that by flipping the dolphins on this side and the eggs on this side. And obviously when all of the markers have been flipped, you enter the last turn of the race, 3 turns to a race, and you cross the finish line here. So I think that's pretty much going to be everything. Actually, I do want to show you one other nifty addition to the game. I'm going to zoom in for this. So before, you just had the one team marker there to signify your 4 horses. As your horses get killed, there's a way now in the module for you to kill the horses one at a time. You can add additional killed horses. And of course the text is going to historically record all of that as it goes on as well. You can adjust the angle that the horses are at for when they get into the corners. And that bears through even if you lost one of your horses. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up for this video. If you have any questions, you can contact me at clanmccrae9vassal at yahoo.com, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. So be looking for this. It's not posted to the website yet, but it should be within the next 24 to 48 hours. I'm not sure how soon this video is going to be out either, but they should all be posted, the videos and the modules, within a day or two of each other. So thank you very much, and I look forward to playing it myself, and I hope anybody out there who's interested in this really, really great game gives it a shot and enjoys it as well. So have a good day. Until next time.